All right, today we're going to have a lesson on biconditional statements. There are three things we want to know. What is a biconditional statement? How do we interpret it? And what is IFF, meaning if and only if? What does that mean in mathematics? So those are the three things we're going to learn today. Before we start, I want to review briefly what we learned about conditional statements. So we learned that conditional statement is any statement that we can write in if-then form. And the general form is if, ... whatever, then, ... And following those dots, following the if, is the hypothesis, which we use a symbol P for, and following the then is the conclusion, where we put the symbol Q. So that means P implies Q is how that's read. So any conditional statement can be written in that form, although of course in English there's lots of ways to write them, but any of the versions can be written in that form. And then we learned that given any conditional statement, there are three other forms that are associated with it. One was the converse, which goes in the opposite direction, so you reverse the hypothesis and the conclusion, so it becomes, for the converse, Q implies P. And then the inverse, where it goes the same direction as the original conditional, but the word not is added in front. So not P implies not Q. And symbolically, we represent the word not with that little squiggle sign. The last form that was important was the contrapositive. And we said this was important because the truth value, whether it was true or false, is the exact same value as the original statement. So the contrapositive in the original statement, they're either both true or both false. Whereas with the converse and the inverse, it just depends. So the contrapositive sort of combines the converse and the inverse. It's going to go in the backwards direction, but it's also going to have the not in front of it. So not Q implies not P. All right. So in your notebooks, I'd like you to write down that a biconditional statement occurs when the conditional statement and its converse are combined using IFF, if and only if. And symbolically, it would look like P and a double arrow Q, because it goes in both directions. If P, then Q, but also if Q, then P. And the if and only if sort of replaces, instead of starting the statement with if and then, the if and only if goes between the two phrases, and you'll see that shortly. An example of this would be a statement, A is the midpoint of line segment BC, if and only if BA, the distance between B and A, is equal to the distance between A and C. That is a true statement, because if the distance between BA and is equal to AC, then A is in the middle, and so then it is the midpoint. So it's working in both directions. This would be a true statement. On the other hand, if we look at the next sentence, the next biconditional, it says, an animal is a bird if and only if it lays eggs. So if an animal is a bird, it does lay eggs. So it works when we look at P implies Q, that seems to work. But if we go backwards, Q implies P. If an animal lays eggs, then it's a bird. Well, if we think about that a bit, we can find what we call a counterexample. Okay? And a counterexample is an example where it's not true. And so one of the easiest ways to tell whether one of these biconditionals are true or not is to think about if you can think of an example where it's not. And if you think a little bit, you can remember that there are reptiles like snakes and crocodiles. They lay eggs, but clearly they're not birds. So counterexamples are very important when we're looking at whether something is true or not. And so this one has a value of false. In mathematics, when we write a a conditional statement, they are going to be true statements in both directions. Now, when we're learning about them and asking you to decide whether they're true or not, some of them may be false, so you have to think about them. So the first task you're going to be doing is I'm going to give you a biconditional statement, and you are going to break it apart into the two parts, P implies Q and Q implies P. This is a pretty simple task, and I don't think you'll have much trouble with it. So here's the first one. If two angles are congruent, or two angles are congruent, if and only if they have equal measures. And so we want to split this into the two pieces. So the first piece, we're going to start with if two angles are congruent, then they have equal measures. Okay? So that's the P implies Q. That looks good. Now if we want to go backwards, so we're going to go the opposite direction, we're going to start with equal measures. So if two angles have equal or the same measures, then they are congruent. So this the Q implies P. So we split off the two into the two separate conditional statements. Notice about the form. So when I'm writing the conditional, they start with if and they have the then, right? But when I'm looking at the biconditional, you can see that instead of the if and the then, just in the middle you have the IFF. So two angles are congruent, they have equal measures, they're separated by the if and only if. So the second example, a solution is a base if and only if it has a pH of greater than 7. So we want to split that into two parts. So see if you can do that, and I'll have the answer on the next slide. So the next task we're going to look at is if you are given a conditional statement, that you can write it as the converse and as the biconditional. So we're going to start with this example here. It's a simple math statement. If 2x plus 5 is 11, then x equals 3. So that is in the conditional form. If we want to write the converse, and then we want to write it as a biconditional. So the converse means we're going to start with the conclusion, and we're going to say if x equals 3, then 2x plus 5 equals 11. So if x equals 3 and I double it and add 5, I do get 11. So this is a true biconditional statement. It's true in each direction. And so to write the biconditional, instead of if and then, we're going to put the words if and only if in the middle. So we're going to say 2x plus 5 equals 11, if and only if x equals 3. And that's our biconditional. So it combines both statements into one. Very handy. Then we've already looked at a couple examples of this with given a biconditional, we want you to be able to tell whether it's true or false. Now, I want to remind you that it's hard to tell whether something is true, but sometimes it's pretty easy to tell whether something is false because you can find an example that is a counterexample, right? So when you look at these, I want you to be thinking, is it possible for you to find some place where it fails? It may work most of the time, but we're looking for a counterexample, some place where it's gonna fall apart. So and it has to fall apart in one direction or the other or both. But if it's going to be true, it's got to be true in both directions all the time. So here we have a square. It's a side length of 5, if and only if its area is 25. And we're trying to tell, is this true? So let's go the first direction. A square has a side length of 5. Okay, well, if the side length is 5, I do know that the area is 25. So that part is true, right? But then I have to look at the backwards part. If I know the area is 25, do I know what the side length is? And I do, because that would be the square root of 25. So then it's going to be 5. And so this is definitely true. It's true both directions. The next example, if I'm looking to tell whether this is true or false, so I'm looking to see, is this true? So it says the number n is a positive integer. So remember, the integers go from, the positive counting numbers and their opposites, but also 0, right? So negatives, -5, -8, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. If and only if I double it, 2n is a natural number. And so let's see, if I have a positive integer, so I'm looking at the numbers, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my positive integers. If I double those, 2 times those, I'm going to get 2, 4, 6, 8. So that does seem to be true, that I will get a natural number. Now, I might have to remind you what a natural number is. The other phrase for that is a counting number. Remember, people didn't come up with the number 0 for quite a while, but the counting numbers, they started counting with their fingers and then just kept going. So these would be the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and keeps going forever. So the counting numbers, so if I have 2 times something, some number, is a counting number or a natural number. So then, let's see. So if I have 2 times n equals 10, well, then I know n is 5, right? And so 5 is a positive integer, so that looks good. But what if I looked at 2 times n equals 5 itself, right? Or another odd number. Well, then if I divide by 2, clearly I'm going to get a decimal number. So n, in this case, n is 2.5. That is not a counting number. We don't count with we are clear that we do not get a positive integer from that. And so this is clearly not true. It's false. And it's false because we found an example, a counter example, this example right here, where if I use an odd number, it doesn't work. The last thing we're going to talk about today is that definitions can be written as biconditional statements. Because it's a definition, it works both ways. So we'll just do one example of this. So a triangle is a 3-sided polygon. That is true. And remember, a polygon is a closed-sided, closed figure with 3 straights, or with straight sides. And so in this case, 3 sides, because it's a triangle. So here we go. We're going to try and write this as a biconditional. So in the middle, we're going to have if and only if. So we're going to say a shape or a figure is a triangle, right? If and only if it is a 3-sided polygon. And then if I go backwards, so it should work either way. So if I have a triangle, then it's a 3-sided polygon. If I have a 3-sided polygon, then it is a triangle. So that's true. All right, so make sure your notes are up to date, and then the assignment is in Schoology.